This week on Brupeg, we're on a stakeout. I perform a deeply respectful Japanese bow through a telephoto lens. Still going. And we're looking for something in the distance. Oh, it's a little Renko. Look at it, it's so cute. Ding, 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 ding. And drop. Ding, ding, ding. Jess communicates with our guests in the original Morse code. And then magical Stu appears.
Here she comes like the rays of the sun.
So I'm thinking that we need to have the gauge located sideways like that so we can see it, and then we'll do some sort of spacer.
Yes. Yep.
This morning, Stu and I are getting some fuel systems organised for Brupeg. We need to know exactly how much fuel pressure we have before and after the fuel filters, and that's what we're building today. There's a couple of manifolds that sit either side of our dual fuel filter setup. I thought I'd take the opportunity to show Stu my new skills at the robot. These are our new fuel gauges. So one is 15 psi on this side, and I've got 8.7 psi on this side. So this is the tank supply side, the pressure side, and then this is the vacuum side that goes to the engine. So the pressure differential between them will give me an idea as to how blocked these filters are. I've got 3 filters and 2 of them are the same, one of them is different.
Right.
And I need to
Make two the same.
make 2 the same, yep. But it's only this plastic that's actually different. I dropped that one and broke the plastic on it.
Oh, bugger.
Yeah, so I ordered another one and the new one turned up different.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
If anything can go wrong.
I'll give you that.
Yep.
Can I get you just to put the plastic on that one?
On that one, yep.
Should be pretty straightforward. I'll start getting rid of these.
14 mil or Oxytorch?
Yeah, I think it's an Oxy 14. I can't even remember how I did them up. They're just impossible to actually access.
Must be up. Oh, well, let's snap that off. So now we need a 17 to get that out.
Holy shit.
Actually, imagine if someone took a tumble.
Yeah. Fucking hell, that's
That didn't take a lot.
That's the whole fuel system did.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's I'm glad that happened now.
Yeah, so if you took a tumble and went, oh,
Yeah,
you'd
yeah.
easily snap that off.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
What
Yeah, it's not like you're kind of putting your foot and going like this, you know.
The whole fuel system is balanced off the thread of one little 3/8.
So that means
Four.
these need to be mounted.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's do a little bracket, stainless bracket that we can.
Which was the
clamp onto.
plan, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we can clamp onto it.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
mount that
also
thing.
no, but you've got soft hose everywhere.
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
Which is heaps better than this
Yes.
setup.
Yes. Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's actually a real point about hard mounting.
Yeah.
Is who's taking the load now?
Yeah.
And where's the?
Where's the strain? Because you bolt it all up. There's got to be strain somewhere.
Yeah, that was.
I've got some 3mm, and I was just thinking I'll just make
Yeah,
a panel
right, a whole panel.
and just drill it in. Mm-hmm. It does. This is 6mm, but it doesn't have to be 6mm.
No.
3's enough. There's plenty of support. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, we only have to do like 4 welds on it, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Have to be
yeah, a bit of
crazy.
stitch welding, yeah.
Yeah. I just want to leave a bit at the top like that much
Yep.
so that I've got a handle.
Handrail,
That's all.
yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, let's go downstairs and
Cool.
chop up some alloy. I thought there was quite a bit of water coming into the engine room from outside. Turns out, yard's flooded. There is quite a bit of water around. There you go. The workshop river. Okay, so it doesn't appear to be even attempting to slow down. You can sort of see over there, that's basically a big dip in the road. It's about half a metre difference between sort of that part there and that part there, and they're almost getting level. Power's blown, so we can't do any welding. The power box is over in the far corner of the yard, over down by the road. I've already gone down there and reset it, and it just keeps blowing. That does sometimes happen with when you get bucket loads of tropical rain here. I lost my shirt due to weather-related incidents. Running out there, and I came back and I was 96% liquid by the time I came back. I've already reset the power once down the end of the yard, and it pretty much blew straight away, so there's no point in resetting it again. There's maybe water in the lines or something, it's earthing out, so we just wait until it dries up. But in the meantime, I can do some bits. So I've got the battery drill, I can carry on with the bed, drilling those holes. I can also, when the welding cools down, I can basically fit those new filters and start hooking up the pipe work for those filters. If I've still got nothing left to do, if there's no power after that, then I can start actually hooking up the inverter. Our big 15 kilowatt inverter needs to be hooked up to our batteries, our 7 kilowatt hour batteries or whatever it is that we've got, 300 amp hours by 24 volts. I don't know the maths. That needs to be hooked up, and that'll give us 240 volt power in the meantime until the yard comes back on board. It's something I have to do anyway for when we launch, but yeah, maybe I'm just going to be forced to do it earlier than I thought. Oh yeah, and Stu's stuck over there. So he's in the marina on Renko. They were anchored just out there in the little bay. They were anchored out there yesterday for a couple of days, but at the moment he ran over to the boat and he's pretty much stuck on the boat because it's so wet. So yeah, we're just sort of waiting for a break in the weather. We don't know when that's going to be before he's back.
While we don't have 240 volt power, we do have battery tools. So this is a job I've been meaning to do for a long time, putting ventilation holes in the bottom of the double bed in one of the lower cabins on Brupeg that we threw together when Stu arrived last time. We never got a chance to put these in right before he arrived, but we do have the time to pull this room apart and get these done now. So whilst I can't do anything else, I can certainly do this. With the power restored, we were back into the engine bay and it was time to start finishing Brupeg's diesel fuel filter setup. So the issue we have is we need 2 filters. I ordered 2 and then proceeded to drop one and crack the bowl. And it was cheaper to buy a new filter, the whole assembly, than it was to buy just the bowl. The bowl itself is 90 bucks, the filter's 55. So I thought I'll order another one and then I'll have a spare, you know, which is what this guy is. However, when we made this stainless plate, we measured it off these feet and they're different to the other 2. So we're having to do a bit of a mismatch and try and actually make some brackets fit some drillings.
Do you have a ratchet?
Yep.
That's good.
Yeah, cool.
I don't want to use it, just for me. Good.
You've never seen this sort of setup before. It's basically so that you can swap filters while the engine's running. You never have to turn the engine on, running off this one filter, and it can block up. And you can use the ball valves to swap over and run off this filter, the secondary filter. You can turn this one off, pull it apart, clean, like basically take the filter out, change it, etc. And then, you know, keep running off the secondary filter until that one blocks up, and then flick back to your first one once you've rebuilt it. And with the manifold setup that we're creating, the valves allow us to do that, but also we've got 2 gauges so that we can see the level of like how much they've blocked up as well. So it's a simple way of having an engine that keeps running even when like you've got shitty fuel, bad conditions that stir up rubbish in your tanks, which is all pretty normal. But this allows you to just keep going and power on until you run out of filters.
Why do you need this though?
I don't trust my mates. They might turn up and filter out their Detroit diesel tanks, which fuck knows what's in there. They run off anything, and then they could put it in my tank, and then I need to just protect the Cummins because Cummins are fucking amazing. Is that what you're doing?
I thought the whole idea of this though was that you could change the filter while the engine's running, and your engine's hardly ever going to be running, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that's true.
Here's your cock ring.
Sorry, I got one. If you know why there's a stupid red ring inside the float bowl on these
filters, like, comment now, because we can't for the life of us figure out what it is.
We've got guesses.
We've got, 57 different theories.
Flow, water in the fuel. We're thinking indicator.
Yeah. It's satisfying doing jobs like this, even if they're like kind of...
Oh, totally. That's the fun job. It's like, there's fuel again. We can hit the button and start it. Like,
yeah.
Compared to sandblasting and painting and
up to scrotum and wet sand.
Yeah, totally.
These filters have a spring-loaded lid, so you can sort of see as I push down, it's trying to spring up. It's essentially a spring underneath, and what that does pushes between the top of the lid here and the filter, the top of the filter here, because if this filter ever gets blocked, it tries to automatically flow up like that, and that spring keeps it seated down onto the bottom of the filter housing. But if it ever does get blocked up, it can actually lift up and bypass so that the engine keeps running. It's another fail-safe that these filters have. Hopefully we'll never ever have to see that used on these filters, because the system that we have should theoretically allow us to avoid that. One of the sort of tricks that we've got, so because of these gauges on either side, we can tell the difference in pressure between them. So, they should theoretically read roughly the same, and if this one ever gets, much lower, we know that these filters are blocking up. There's a port on this manifold that we created. We put a port, one here and one just over there, you can sort of see it, and that's going to be for an NMEA sensor, and that'll have an alarm up on the bridge. So we know if the pressure drops outside of a certain range, an alarm will come on and we know that the filters are starting to get blocked, and that'll be well before this bypass ever kicks in. So we should know, pretty early and effectively straight away as soon as they're blocking up, that we have to go and do something about them.
So that's the plan, we're going to bleed it now?
Yeah, alright, so I'll turn the fuel on.
So you've got quite a bit of head of fuel, which is good.
Yeah, there's about, the top of the deck is the top of the deck head is the fuel line. So
we shouldn't go far, you're just going to compress the air in here. Went round the dial and hit the needle on the far side.
Jesus.
Yeah, it went right off the scale.
Okay, so we can generate plenty.
50 kilopascals.
Get ready to close it.
Yep. Before or after it overflows? Alright, by the time I put the filter in, it'll come up.
A lot of the work that we're doing at the moment is driven by our need for insurance, so we're getting an out-of-water survey done on the boat so that we can have confidence that the insurance company will trust the boat is seaworthy. We have our list. This came from the surveyor, and one of the things we have to do is a bilge pump. In Australia, a DC bilge pump won't pass commercial survey. They'll only accept engine-driven pumps or AC, like 240 volt or 415 volt AC pumps. Which is all good. We like to try and build Brupeg to commercial standards, so we're going to be going with an engine-driven pump. This pump actually comes from Renko. So, being a Detroit, there's no point in having anything that's going to zap power off that motor. They need everything they can get to turn that puny little propeller. So Stu kindly took this off.
I took it off. I was asleep when you took it off.
Now, do you want to tell us a story about this pump? It's quite cool.
Yeah, so this pump, we had a meetup in LA when I was in the US, and Gary Smitty came down to the meetup and plonked this pump actually onto a glass table that had a tablecloth on it, so we didn't realise it was a glass table, but a very strong one, didn't break. So thanks Gary, he really kindly donated this. So this came back to Australia in my bag. I had it sitting in Renko but not plumbed in. And then the ESSA surveyor came through Brupeg and said, you need this powered, engine-driven pump. And they were hard and expensive to get, so I figure it's probably better off on working in Brupeg than sitting not plumbed in Renko.
Yeah.
The other thing is that Renko is a raw water cooled boat, as in, the raw water cools the coolant that goes through the engine. So I actually have an impeller pump. I can put Y valves on the inlet and the outlet, and I can use it to both suck from the bilge and be a deck wash or whatever.
Yeah.
But because Brupeg has keel cooling, it doesn't actually have a raw water pump at all.
Yeah.
So by putting it in Brupeg, we now have one raw water pump each, essentially.
Yeah.
Made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So thank you, Gary. You've given it to me, I've given it to Damien, and it's getting put to good use.
Actually, I just had a thought. We can turn this into a deck wash pump as well. Put a Y valve in.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so we've got a brilliant deck wash pump now as well.
Yep.
So yeah, so thanks Gary and thanks Stu. This is bloody cool to have. So this pump, it's basically like a Jabsco pump that you'd have, impeller at this end. You've got an inlet and an outlet, but it has a 12-volt clutch. So you can essentially have this hooked up to your motor and spinning the whole time, but not spinning the impeller. So it can be sitting there, without use for a month, and it doesn't really affect it whilst the motor's running. As soon as you need it, you basically positive and negative, and you can hook this clutch in, and then your pump's up and running again. So yeah, it's a cool wee system.
And then we're thinking a bit like an electric bilge pump, just have the clutch hooked to off float switch and then manually on.
Yeah.
So the float switch can just activate the clutch when necessary, or you can override it either way.
So in case you're wondering about what happens if Brupeg starts filling up with water and we don't have the main engine running, theoretically we don't have a bilge pump if this isn't spinning around. We will be putting a DC pump in, but we're not going to be relying on the DC pump to do the bulk of the work. That'll be basically there just as the first line of defence, and it's going to be not going to be if we get, say, a seacock opens up or something like that, we get a decent hole in the hull. There's no way any little bilge pump's going to handle it. Probably not even this one, but it's enough to keep the bilge dry, and it's also enough to give this a bit of backup as well. So there will be a couple of different systems in the boat to make sure that we're always covered. But this will be our main pump on Brupeg. If Brupeg ever ruptures the hull in any way, the first line of defence for us is the fact that we have multiple seal compartments. So we've got bulkheads throughout the boat, and I think from memory we've got 16 different compartments in this boat. So we can rupture sort of 3 or 4 of those and still, not necessarily sink or have any drama. We don't even need to pump them out, and we can still make our way back to shore. With these pumps, we'll be able to direct which area of the boat we're pumping out. So this one pump will be able to take care of all of the freezer room. So ignore the internal walls in the freezer room. That's just one big sealed up compartment. This pump has the ability to basically pull from there through Y valves. We'll direct it to pull only from the freezer room. We also can direct it to a different area and pull only from the engine room. So we're going to be able to empty those 2 main compartments with this one main pump. By freezer room, I mean the cabins that we're putting people in, not that we're going to be putting them in the freezer. So while Stu's on the boat, we're going to try and get a bit more power in the boat. And he said, no, that sounds awesome. You go, girl, more power to you. And I said, well, how much more power? And he quantified it. It's actually 5 kilowatts. This is our 5 kilowatt inverter. And it has a peak load of 15 kilowatts, continuous of 5 kilowatts. These are our batteries that are going to be powering it. So each one of these is 24 volts, 100 amp hours. So we've got 24 volt, 300 amp hour is our house bank. And then over the back here, this is the individual cells that make up these batteries. So one of the main reasons why we got these batteries is you can see there's screws holding the lid on in the stainless box. If any component in these batteries died, we can take the lid off and just replace that one component. So in this case, if one cell dies, we can replace one cell. If the BMS dies, we can replace that. That's the main advantage for us in having batteries like this. You have as much rebuildability as you would if you built your own lithium bank, but these are off-the-shelf batteries. We don't have to do any work to actually get these. There's a link in the description for the place that we use for these batteries. We've found them to be great, and they're a really low-cost, easy option to get lithium batteries in your boat or your house. Before we hook these lithiums up, we had a couple of questions about equal length wiring, so we got hold of a mate of mine who built her own lithium battery bank to power a yacht. She's got a YouTube channel on the whole build. You should check her out. She's awesome. What we've done inside the battery box, we've got our inverter and our batteries. We've moved them around and so on, and we've got a slab of plywood here. We're actually going to mount this plywood up against the far wall, and this is going to be something that we screw into. The reason being is because on our DC board here, we're starting to run out of real estate, and that's going to become a long-term problem anyway. But the flip side is, if we mount the board right down on the back there behind the batteries, we can probably start getting some of the bigger cables out of the way, and they're not going to start clogging up this side.
I should film that again with black sticker flex so it shows up better on camera.
With lithium batteries, it's really important that the cells are charged evenly. You don't want some high and some low. And one of the issues that you can get when you start ganging up multiple lithium batteries into one single large bank is that you can undercharge the ones in the middle of the pack and overcharge the ones at the end. So by having equal length cables, and then by having essentially every battery connected on its own to the DC power system in the boat, there's no one battery that's further away from the power system or the charge system than the others. Therefore, every battery should theoretically get the same amount of charge.
just pulled into Bent's. These are the guys that are doing our shaft for the anchor. Apparently it's ready, so let's go have a bit of a gander. Hey, here it is, look at that. Oh, lovely. So they've skimmed this side, they've got a new brake disc, they've got a stainless disc with a big nut, fine thread, old disc with the original clamping mechanism. Awesome. Right about to take it home and we realise there's an issue. So this shaft is exactly the same as the original shaft, however this doesn't fit this. The internal machine part in here is about 85mm long, so it's about sort of yay long, and this here is much longer, 150mm, something like that. So if we put this on the end, which is what holds the whole thing together, if we screw that in, the thread that's at the end there, this big gypsy is going to be able to flop back and forth. So we're going to machine this down, so we've got about 5mm clearance between the length on the gypsy and the length on the shaft, and then that bolt there will be able to be torqued up and hold the whole thing on. There's a keyway right along the bottom, it's a bit hard to see, but it's the same as this one here where you've got a keyway that runs all the way along the shaft. So we just have to put it back in the lathe and yeah, fix that measurement. It's not something we realised because I've never seen that gypsy on the actual shaft itself, so it's something that we only just figured out then when they were machining up the washer to bolt the whole thing together. We realised, hang on a minute, there's quite a bit of slop in this system, so we'll fix that and then we'll come back this afternoon and pick it up. So we've gone from an old bent shaft that was worn out and knackered to a freshly machined lovely 316 shaft. It's time to get these batteries hooked up. When I went in to check on that shaft, I had to do a parts run to get some more bits and pieces for the boat. I needed to get some kill switches for each of these batteries and I was struggling to get one that had enough amperage at a continuous rating, 24 volt continuous rating. Finally got some, so it's time to wire them up so that we can kill these batteries individually if needed, which helps for balancing. If one of them is too high, we can turn that off and let the others catch up, and likewise if one's too low, we can turn the other two off, etc. This is just a manual way of us top balancing these cells. Normally I like my cabling to be incredibly neat and tidy and parallel lines and right angles and all of that beautiful stuff. In this case, because I had to do equal length batteries and they were different distances from the bus bar, the positive bus bar, the cables did look a bit of a rat's warren at the end of it. They are as tidy as I can get them, but they certainly make me want to scream internally. We're on the final legs of wiring up this inverter and it started to absolutely bucket down again. It's really cold, it's gone from being super hot yesterday to really cold this morning. We're nearly there with the actual wiring though. I am expecting the power to go out at any minute because it sometimes happens like that. So once I get this inverter wired up, we can still power the boat up running from our batteries. The inverter's now hooked up. It is the least prettiest wiring that I've done so far, but it's because right now 240 volt power is more important than tidy. I am going to put some cable trays over the back. I'm going to do that probably off camera just to get the job done, but that's going to happen over the next few days. But right now we can do this. Whoop, whoop. And we have power! Being that the inverter makes 240 volt power, AC 240 volt power, I'm not legally allowed to wire it all up, so we'll be getting a Sparky to come and hook all the cables up. It's just incredibly simple job. I could do it, but I'm not qualified, and therefore if I do it, I won't get insurance on the boat. So I've done the DC side of things. I'm allowed to do that in Australia, and I don't have to get that signed off. I've done that basically as best as I can with fuses on the batteries. They are to be installed. They haven't arrived yet, but they're going to be put on. I've got kill switches on every battery. All of the power is fused in multiple different locations depending on wire size and so on. It's been checked by an electrical engineer. He actually drew up the wiring diagram for our system in Brupeg, so I basically just follow that diagram and it can't go wrong. However, with the AC, I need to make sure it's done legally so that I can get insurance. So I'm going to stop on the inverter at this point because I can't do much more. As soon as we can get a Sparky in, we're going to get that hooked up, and then we can get power into the boat for the AC outlets. This is out the back of Brupeg. It's kind of bucketing down. You can see that outlet from the wheelhouse roof, and then it's a bit hard to see through the window, but there's so much rain out there that it's overflowing the sides of the roof, the gutters that we made. The drains aren't keeping up, it's just going straight over the side. And the yard's flooding out again, what a surprise!
We've heard a rumour from locals that it's supposed to be a very wet summer, but you wouldn't think so today. Vicki and Stu were determined to get us out on the water to have a bit of a break before getting Brupeg launched. Thanks guys, it was a gorgeous day.
Do you want to go offshore or up the river? Off. Good choice. We can go past the pirate ship. Go board them.
My whole world has changed, baby, since you came around. So take a chance on us. Take a chance on us. Oh, my whole world is tainted by the colors of your touch. So make a change for us. Make a change for us. I said take a chance on us. Take a chance on us. Oh, the sound of your heartbeat. I'm gone. I'm gone.
Stop.
No, yeah. So long I've been traveling alone, but now there's you. My whole world has changed since baby, I got you. So wake me up inside. Wake me up inside. Our whole world will change while stepping into love. Oh, take a chance on us. Take a chance on us. Won't you make
heading back into port. What a gorgeous day, thanks guys. And the next morning, Renko is off, heading south, back home. Have a good trip guys, thanks. See you soon.
This is our 5 kilowatt inverter. So it's got a peak load of 15 kilowatts and a continuous of 5 kilowatts. And then these are the batteries that are going to be driving it. So these are...
Do you need me to be quiet while you're filming?
I'm going to have to start all of this again, Stuart.
Okay. Don't you know how to edit?
And cut. That was seamless. No one's going to know the difference. This is our 5 kilowatt inverter.
Start from the batteries.
Start from the batteries. No one's going to be able to see this seamless cut that I make though.